Okay, so I think I beat that horse to death. Man, I was tired last night, so any of you guys who watched that, thank you very much. I'm gonna re-record that first bit and this bit too. Like I said in the beginning of that part one, this is kind of self-indulgent. I'm trying to work these ideas out and test my phone and upload videos, so it's a little bit experimental. So thank you very much for bearing with me. And okay, so I think I beat that horse to death pretty well. And but here's the part two, and here's the part that uh, is gonna get me in trouble. And this is actually, given all that, this is actually where it starts to get weird. So I think a lot about artificial intelligence. Maybe you could have guessed this is where I was gonna go, but I think a lot about artificial intelligence. Um, here's here's my thing with artificial intelligence, and the thing I don't understand. Maybe somebody can explain this to me, but from what I observe in the world is that there's a natural tendency towards intention. The thing that I was calling intention. Some people might call it life. I like to think of it as the missing law of thermodynamics. If all the laws of thermodynamics, if you look at them, they're all basically about entropy, and how things slowly decay into chaos. And my idea, though, is that there would be no chaos if there weren't also an equal amount of order. If there wasn't order arising out of chaos, there'd be no need for entropy to disassemble the order that arises, right? So that, in my mind, is the missing law of thermodynamics, because the energy dissipates from something, but then it gets reabsorbed into something else, So right now there's like dust particles that are floating around in here, and maybe there's like a dust particle that is a piece of skin, or a piece of plaster, or a piece of fabric, or a piece of ash from a fire. I mean, there's no way to tell. But eventually, those dust particles are going to float away and settle somewhere, and then become soil, and then become, I don't know, worm food, and then become a potato plant, and somebody's gonna eat a French fry from that. And so there's that cycle of the perpetual motion of one of that energy that comes through the chaos and becomes a thing, and then disintegrates, and then becomes another thing, right? The whole circle of life thing, or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into that anymore. But I think that is, like I said, the missing law of thermodynamics. And the only name that I can think of for it is intention. Now, I go over all that because of the idea of artificial intelligence. And here's my concern with artificial intelligence, is that anything that would be, I don't know how testable this is, but it makes me wonder if there was a measurable difference between the intention that's generated by a human mind, say, or a beaver mind, or honeybee mind, or whatever, virus mind. If there's a measurable difference between the durability of the thing that is created through artificial intelligence versus the thing that is created by natural intelligence. And I like the term natural intelligence, maybe natural intention. That's my concern. I don't think that it would be. It doesn't make sense that it would be. And the reason is that I think it's because of the law of diminishing returns, So I was watching the movie WALL-E, which, I'm not going to quote that for scientific reference, obviously. There's a lot of problems with that movie from a physics point of view, but But it raises an interesting question about robots perpetually repairing and rebuilding robots. And it makes me wonder if that were the case, and if my hypothesis is correct, then the creator, whatever entity was the initial creator of the intention of the artificial intelligence, would have to be profoundly, powerfully intended in order for that system to perpetuate. And I believe that once an artificial intelligence starts to realize that our position alongside whatever AI we develop would then be secure. And because I believe that once an AI is able to start performing mathematics on the quantum level, they're doing quantum computing now. Once they're able to do that, my hypothesis is that at some point the AI would realize that it needs naturally derived intention in order to be able to perpetuate its own existence. Now, if that could be humans or beavers or honeybees or viruses, I don't know how that would work, because I don't fully understand how reality is sort of blossomed up out of the ether. I don't fully understand how that evolutionary process works. Still figuring that out. But I don't think that if an artificial intelligence that got to a point of self-autonomy would view the eradication of the human species as being in its own best interest, because of the law of diminishing returns. I think that if we started like an AI, right, and it could compute infinitely powerfully and all that other kind of thing, but then we were eradicated. There was like no humans. We just started a robot species and there was no humans. No animals. Like it just became like this robot planet. I think that it would operate fairly well for a while, but it wouldn't be able to operate in perpetuity. Yeah, it couldn't operate perpetually, because the thing in itself is a machine, and without having the ability, this is interesting, without having the ability to actively retrieve the chaotic information from the quantum and actively apply it, then no artificial intelligence will be able to last for very long, And so here's what I mean by that is that, what do I mean by that? I think what I mean is that, yeah, it goes back to what I was saying before. I'm not sure if I got into this in the first video or not, but so here's my wristwatch. Same wristwatch I had in the video from yesterday. And according to my hypothesis, this wristwatch is being perpetually rejuvenated. It's being perpetually reestablished, because there was an initial intention that happened at the quantum level. There was like an observer effect that happened at the quantum level, and the strings that were the potentialities bubbled up, and they became atoms, and the atoms formed together in molecules, and there was a strong intention behind that, right? But just like in your body or in a virus or in a cell or something like that, you're constantly being renewed at the cellular level. And I think that's what's happening at the atomic level with this, is that like with you, you have a genetic code that tells your DNA to keep rebuilding you at the same rate, so you become the same thing over and over and over again. This, in the same sense, at the quantum, what the strings are doing is coming up and they're completely renewing those atoms, and then reforming the same molecules, and that's even where like the degradation comes from, like over time. The intention behind the steel is going to degrade because the code that's behind it isn't going to be as powerful, indefinitely, and that's why this will eventually just kind of like fall apart and turn back into dust, right? So the thing that would be missing for an artificial intelligence would be the part of the human mind that can actively pull things out of the quantum, right? And that's the observer effect, like the dual slit experiment and all this other kind of thing. But that's why I think that AI isn't going to be a threat to us, because at the end of the day, I think that the ability to knit things into what we understand as concrete, material, tangible things isn't something that can be reproduced. I think that's a completely natural process. Yeah. All right. So, having said all that, here's where I'm going to go off the deep end. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go off the deep end in a different video. So, anyway, so to sum up, we as humans, no, we as entities we as inhabitors of self-awareness. I wonder if I could say if we as inhabitors of self-awareness. We as inhabitors of self-awareness, because you're not like inhabiting just the body or the house or the amoeba isn't just inhabiting that. There's like the indefinite, the indeterminable, the difficult to describe, the ethereal consciousness behind the thing that moves. God, there's so many different things to unwrap in that. But I think it's an inherent part of our evolutionary process, of our evolutionary outcome, that we are able to derive order out of chaos. And that where we exist is on the bleeding edge between order and chaos, and we are constantly bubbling up order in our worlds based on our own intentions and interpretations, which are influenced by culture and gender and DNA and history and all these other sorts of things. But the things that bubble up out of the quantum field are the constantly being renewed, all from all different directions at all possible times. So, like every time you take a step, it's you're moving forward along with your feet and your shoes and the grass that you step on and the sun and the sky and the birds and everything is right. We're like right on that border of time, you know. Do you ever see a fighter jet, you know, that's like flying and up against the sound barrier, and it makes that like that cloud, and you can see it, and it's like what's happening there. So the way that I envision it is that that's where we are. You know, we're moving that fast, and what's on the other side of that is nothing. It's the infinite. So I'll show you what's on the other side of that. If you just close your mind, close your eyes, and you think about the back of your head, or think about what you're having for breakfast, or think about what you're going to do tomorrow morning. That thing that you see, the potentiality, the weird memories that are a little bit disjointed, all this other kind of stuff. That's what's on the other side of this time stream that we're moving through. That we're pushing on it. We're right up against it, and I think that that's possible because, well, I think that we're, you know, oh, God, man, I can go crazy with this. I'm believe that we are actually traveling at the speed of light. We're right up against the speed of light, and the reason I say that is because if you add up the speed of the rotation of the Earth, the Earth moving around the sun and its binary star, which I think does exist. We haven't seen it because it's on a long cycle. We're not familiar with it yet, but the Earth can't not have a binary star. So you've got all those spinning things, plus we're, you know, spinning around something else, plus we're moving around the galaxy, plus the galaxy is moving in a cloud, and the galaxy cloud is moving in something else. And if you accumulate all those different speeds, then we're moving at the speed of light. We are the fighter jet that's up against the sound barrier, you know, and that's where that's where we're constantly moving into the future. We're constantly growing and we're constantly changing. And like the ripples that you see coming off the fighter jet are the time and the reality that we see all around us, you know. That's what's going on, you know. I'm not even like a stoner. Anyway, hey, look, if you are interested in any of these thoughts, if any of this stuff sounds like remotely feasible, one of the things that I'm looking for, that I would love to be able to find, is an open-minded, you know, physicist or mathematician who's trying to understand some of these sorts of things, who maybe has like some ideas. One of the things that I'm really good at is hearing an idea like this, like, you know, like I've read all through Brian Greene's books, and I've read, you know, all that kind of heavy stuff, and it makes a lot of sense. And but I'm good at kind of taking it to the next step. But I'm not a math guy, you know, so I couldn't tell you like how the math works and this sort of thing. But I'm a heavily creative thinker. So I'm just gonna put myself out there for you. If whoever comes across this, you know, if you're remotely interested in this, yeah, check me out. You know, check out some of my podcasts. I've got theories about light and how light is actually the cause of gravity at the quantum level, which is really interesting, and it answers the question of why light acts as both a particle and a wave. I've got that figured out, I think. I've got yeah, like where gravity comes from, where, you know, consciousness comes from, where like a lot of these things are sort of started to happen. And I'm happy to share all of it. And what I'd really like to be able to do is to find, like, these ideas can't just stay in my head. I'd like to be able to find somebody who is, you know, ambitious, a go-getter, you know, who wants to make some changes or develop some new ideas, or is looking for a thesis, or is looking for a dissertation or something like that, and maybe stuck on some ideas, and, you know, do some like brainstorming, you know, figure some of this kind of stuff out, and like really push that envelope and start to understand that these are the sorts of ideas that we need to be able to get free energy to people. You know, these are the things that Nikola Tesla could see and could understand and was trying to express. You know, these are the patents that people have, you know, patented over the years, but have been like taken away by the government or whatever. And now is a time in human history when we need to start grasping these ideas for a lot of reasons. So anyway, message me, contact me. My website is SeanMurdochTalks.com. That's SeanMurdochTalks.com. Sean Murdoch was my stage name when I was doing stand-up comedy. And then Sean Helgerson's my given name. So I'm Sean Helgerson on YouTube, and then my podcast is Sean Murdoch Talks, and my website is SeanMurdochTalks.com. So whatever. Oh, and I'm on TikTok at